Greetings. R. Frederick Riddle here with another episode of Christian News and Views. And this is episode 2654. And this is Friday. So, some of this has been taking place all week long. Not really a recap, but just to bring up to date on what I've been finding out about the war over in Iran. So the article here starts out President Donald Trump paused planned U.S. strikes on Iran just hours before a self imposed deadline, citing diplomatic progress that Tehran immediately denied, even as U.S. forces continued moving in position, a split signal that leaves the next move uncertain. The move creates a narrow 5-day window in which the administration is signaling diplomacy while preserving the ability to strike, raising the stakes for whether talks materialize or whether the delay simply sets up near-term escalation. The abrupt shift follows a weekend ultimatum in which Trump warned the U.S. would begin targeting Iran's power infrastructure if the Strait of Hormuz was not reopened, a threat that rattled global oil markets and heightened fears of imminent conflict. By Monday morning, however, Trump announced a 5-day delay, pointing to what he described as very good and productive conversations tied to a broader framework that includes nuclear disarmament. The rapid shift from ultimatum to pause in less than 48 hours resets the clock, opening a 5-day window for diplomacy before decision on strikes. The whiplash shift from strike threat to sudden pause adds to the uncertainty around Washington's next move. The White House and the Iranian mission to the United Nations could not immediately be reached for comment. Iranian officials quickly rejected the claim that negotiations were underway, dismissing Trump's comments as psychological warfare and accusing Washington of using the appearance of diplomacy to buy time. Even as the White House points to diplomacy, the Pentagon has continued to expand its military footprint in the region. In recent days, thousands of U.S. Marines have been deployed aboard amphibious warships, adding rapid strike and ground operation capabilities near Iran, with additional naval assets positioned to support escalation if ordered. The posture suggests the United States is maintaining and in some cases increasing its readiness to act, even as Trump signals a potential opening for negotiations. Iranian officials argue the two tracks are linked. Tehran has accused Washington of using talk of diplomacy to influence oil markets from time by time for military repositioning, deepening uncertainty over whether the pause reflects a genuine diplomatic opening or a temporary delay before further action. The dual track approach is also being echoed by key U.S. allies. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Monday that Trump sees an opportunity to leverage the substantial achievements of recent military operations to advance war objectives through a potential agreement. At the same time, we continue to strike both in Iran and in Lebanon, Netanyahu said. Some analysts say the approach reflects a strategy of applying military pressure while testing whether diplomacy produces concessions. Now, here, listen to this. I think that there's definitely a method to the president's decision making here. Jason Brodsky, policy director at United Against Nuclear Iran, told Fox News Digital. He is testing to see what concessions the Iranian regime would be prepared to make, Brodsky said. The president can be testing diplomacy. The president can also be buying time. All these things can be true at the same time. It's not either or. Still, Brodsky expressed skepticism that the current moment will produce a breakthrough. I remain skeptical that we're anywhere near a point where the Iranian regime will make significant concessions, he said. With the 5-day window now underway, attention is shifting to what comes next. If negotiations fail to materialize, the administration could move forward with the strikes it has already threatened or escalate to a ground operation with forces now in position to carry them out. If talks do take shape, the pause can mark the start of a broader diplomatic effort. A central unresolved issue is Iran's nuclear stockpile, which Trump and his Israeli officials have signaled remains a key objective of the operation. Securing or neutralizing highly enriched uranium could prove critical and determine whether the conflict moves toward a diplomatic resolution or further military action. In the coming days, key indicators will include whether any indirect talks emerge through intermediaries, whether U.S. force posture continues to expand, and whether Iran takes steps to reopen the Strait of Hormuz or signals willingness to negotiate. Now, before I get into my opinion, I'm going to start out with an opinion. And either today is the fifth day or tomorrow, depends on when you started the count. But so we should be seeing something happen. But I want to get into my regular opinion here. I want to say, did you notice this? These are words or phrases in the context of what I just read. Leaves the next move uncertain. Whiplash. Psychological warfare. So, by the way, I think Iran really has nailed it as far as understanding Trump better than other people have. I believe that they're correct. He is doing that. He is bluffing. I disagree with the press secretary on that but it depends upon your interpretation of the word bluff. I might get to that more later. But Iran has at least a part of the explanation, but a full definition we've already mentioned. I quoted it, and I'm going to quote it again. So we're seeing Trump at his best, and I think there is an explanation, and that is what I'm going to quote here. I think that there's definitely a method to the president's decision making here. Jason Brodsky, policy director at United Against Nuclear Iran, told Fox News Digital. He is testing to see what concessions the Iranian regime would be prepared to make, Brodsky said. The president can be testing diplomacy. The president can also be buying time. All these things can be true at the same time. It's not either or. He doesn't think Iran is ready to negotiate, but I think that Trump is using a two-fisted approach. Iran realizes this, but is frustrated because there is nothing they can do to stop it. And so I mentioned earlier here that I believe I forgot what it was. We were talking about the psychological warfare aspect of it, and the fact that Iran did nail that part. But the really true part here is that it's a two-fisted policy, and it's one that could very well bear fruit, and it might be one of those things, cases where they wait until the last minute. So I don't pretend to be able to understand the Iranian mind, but just going on past history, they are not eager to make any kind of concessions. And when you start lying to other people, especially if you're doing it a lot, you tend, after a while, you tend to believe your own lies. But unless they're so blinded they can't see it, they've already lost the war. If they have any comprehension at all, they should be trying to, well, for one thing, preserve their own jobs, their own lives. Because if they make a wrong step here, One thing is the United States and Israel could obliterate them, at least for a time, short time. If they make the wrong step, they could also open themselves up to open rebellion by their own people, the people who they've been brutalizing for years, for decades, and who are gaining in confidence, hopefully. Uh, they don't have it doesn't seem that they have a united front as far as the last I heard. But a void actually leaves an opening for somebody to move in. And so there might be somebody moving in and taking over, and maybe even this very moment, planning action or taking action. But we will have to wait and see on how that all works. But uh, the Iranians are faced with two bad decisions from their perspective. One is a surrender, which is what they should do. Step down, step away from the government, step away from power, and surrender. And pray. And they don't pray to God, they pray to Allah, a fake God. So that's the only option they really have. The other one is not really an option, and that is simply to continue on. The more they continue on, the more they're going to get punished. The United States may eventually pull back. Politics being what it is, it could happen. But I don't see Israel stopping. And they have the capability of going alone, especially now that Iran has been so badly weakened. And yes, you might argue, well, how can you say they're weak when they're still bombing and still have control of the straits there, and they're still sending drones and so forth? Well, that is all true. But you've noticed that in the death, as far as deaths go, they're in handfuls. Now, any death is wrong, is hurtful, as we don't want it. But in war, deaths occur. And we are at war. We've been at war for 47 years. Just now, we're taking it back to them. We're done playing the patsy. So it's an interesting scenario altogether. But I think that Trump is in it for the long haul. We'll see. Like I said, politics being what it is, and I don't know how strong the rest of the GOP leadership will support him. And so he needs their support. He needs our support. He needs our not only physical and political support, but our prayers. But in the end, it will be his decision to make, and he's going to have to weigh the cost of doing whatever he's going to do. So I think he's in for it, and I think when he bluffs, that's what I was going to talk about earlier. Bluffing. The secretary of the press there, she I think she defines bluffing as, and I'm not speaking for her, it's just as my interpretation. But I think that she means where you're just threatening something you have no intention of doing. We have history that backs up that view. Obama and Biden, red lines meant nothing. When Trump draws a red line, he means it. And so when I say bluffing, I don't mean it's an empty-handed bluff. So she's correct in what she is saying, but I believe I'm correct also, because he can bluff and say, I'm going to do this if you don't do this or do that. Well, he has the capability and he has a historical record to back it up and say, I bluffed here, they called it, and I acted. So it's a bluff. It's not really the typical bluff. The typical bluff is you in cards, you pretend you have a great hand when you may not. But on the other side, it's a person seeing it. They're seeing it as a bluff, whether it's real or not. And I'm saying the Iranians and them are seeing it as a bluff. But if they have any wisdom whatsoever, which is somewhat doubtful, if they have any wisdom whatsoever, they know that behind that bluff stands the weight of the U.S. Armed Forces. Behind that bluff stands a man, the President of the United States, who has demonstrated the capability and the willingness to do what he says he's going to do. And so it's it's a bluff with horns. It's a bluff with an armed element to it it turns it from bluff into reality. And so I'm not really in disagreement with her. I'm just clarifying what I believe to be the facts here is that if they call it as a bluff, if they call it, woe to them. Well, that's my opinion. I hope you've enjoyed this. I've always tried to encourage and inform and inspire you. Hopefully, I've done one of the three or all three. I also want to remind you that this is sponsored by TNR Independent Books, a Christian indie publisher. We help Christians get published. They can learn to write too. We'll teach them how to write, and then we'll publish them. And if you are a Christian and you want to write, check us out at trbookservices.com. And you will find that we have some services there that can be a help to you. And we are currently offering a spring bonus. It's a bonus of 26% off. It's hard to beat that. Well, you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.